Because you're ready. Wants to look at that, and that's in a section where she can't find it.
Okay.
Okay, so edit it.
So I looked on the EPI
I guess I
website, our
wasn't sure if you
enrollment
put that in
flat
public until it was,
in this year and last year.
pretty much, yeah.
It was over there.
Yeah, I don't know. Policies, I would think that one, that I would like them to be able to review it, so.
Okay.
Thank you. What a train wreck.
Okay, we'll call the budget hearing to order. And I guess we get this one, we start right out with the treasurer's report. Jeff?
Okay. All right, the cash investment balances on June 30th, 2021. Cash were as follows. General fund, $2,925,181. Special revenue trust fund, $851,383. Special education fund, $100,582. Debt service funds, $710,258. Long-term capital improvement fund, $223,781. Food service fund, $424,630. Community services fund, $194,304, for a total of $5,430,119.
Okay, thank you. Presentation of the budget. Mike?
All right, hopefully everybody has a copy of the annual meeting packet, which has all this financial information in it, if you don't have it on your computer. First things that I'm going to talk about is the budget itself, which follows the audit report. I'm on page 8. Okay, we got some good news to talk about in our report and our budget. Last year's budget ended up with a surplus of $532,721, which will, you'll see on that first line, will increase the fund balance to $3,072,915.36. A lot of that to do with ESSER funds that we received during the year that we were able to offset a number of our expenses. This budget also is impacted by ESSER 2 and 3 funds this year. We've got about a little over $1,111,000 that we're expending with ESSER funds in this budget. So you'll see why the budget's increased by the amount that it has. Taxes down on 210. Taxes this year in Fund 10, $1,051,122. That's a decrease of $80,846 from last year. As we go down, under 340 is open enrollment. That's a receipt. We expect to receive $1,102,924 for open enrolled students that are attending Ladysmith schools. Another highlight on that page is down on 620, our state aid. State aid in this budget, $6,877,699. That's $183,596 increase in state aids this year. On page 9, you can see the total revenues, $11,732,916.66. The next part of that shows all of our expenditures through all the various funds for curriculum, student support, special projects. And again, I wanted to mention that ESSER The funds account for $1,131,135 of this expenditure. The total expenditures in Fund 10, $11,732,916.65. You'll note that's a balanced budget. You have not had a balanced budget in Ladysmith for at least the last 7 years. It's been a negative budget. I think that's very good for the school district. The overall increase, when you take out all the ESSER expenditures, increased $218,000, which is about 2% increase. Fund 21, special project funds, most of that is in extracurricular that was transferred into that. The next one is Fund 27, which is special education. Revenues there, $1,884,879 at the bottom of page 10. And expenditures of $1,884,879, which a balanced budget again there in Fund 27. Debt service. About halfway down the page on page 11. Debt service expenditures to $2,142,863.99. Capital improvement projects, we will be expending $223,781.45 in that fund. And the food service fund, the last major fund, will have an ending fund balance of $196,764.16. And that's gonna, the Department of Public Instruction is forcing us to expend down our fund balance in food service.
Why are they doing that?
Because it's higher than they will allow.
Okay.
So we'll be updating some equipment and some things like that. Fund 50 stands by itself, can't be expended. Money out of Fund 50 can't be spent anywhere except in food service.
Okay.
And on page 12, the last fund, Fund 80, is a community service fund, $124,434.14. Up a little bit. We're going to be doing some repairs to the log cabin and a few things like that. So it's increased a little bit this year. I'd like to go to page 17, which is really the most important part of this budget, is understanding the revenue limit that schools in the state of Wisconsin are under. The first page there on page 17 really goes through expenditures from last year to establish a base revenue. Our base revenue is $8,063,831. They then go into the membership, and it shows the membership averages, and I think a 3-year rolling average. So for 2018, 19, and 20, the rolling average was 749 FTE, or full-time students. The next box area used 2019, 2020, 2021 for this year's number. That comes up to 742 students on a rolling average. That's a -7 from the past 3-year rolling average. There's a declining enrollment exemption for those 7 students. You'll see they'll be carried over on the next page. And then the last thing on that page 17, which is important for the district, is the equalized value. Increased to $291,813,002. We'll have a graph later on that shows a comparison there to last year. But on page 18, those numbers carry over. The maximum revenue per member, $10,700,000. $766.13 set by the state. Our number that we can use to multiply that by 742, number of students. We've got the hold harmless exemption of $75,363. Those are carried down. Then we have a whole list of other exemptions. We have the energy efficiency, which is explained on the following page, but that's for the debt that the district went into during the time that they remodeled the elementary school and did some other work. That exemption, $66,755. DPI missed an open enrollment student from last year, so we got an exemption of $767 there. Private school voucher, that's for number of kids that are on the voucher program at the private school. That increased to $83,316 this year. And that's what the district will end up losing in state aid because of the voucher program. The next important number there is the certified levy or certified equalized value. Excuse me, certified general aid, $6,837,170 on number 12A. I mentioned that earlier, but again, that's set by the state. We have state aid to high districts, poverty districts, that's $40,529. Exemptions for computers, state aid $15,787, and exemption for personal property $34,128. Line 13 shows that's the absolute maximum that we can levy for Fund 10. $1,362,562. Of that, you see that Fund 10 taxes is $1,051,122, but also in there is $311,440 of debt. And that's non-referendum debt, so that's part of your revenue limit. So when you add the $1,051,122 to the non-referendum debt of $311,440, you come up with that total maximum of $1,362,552. You move down in the purple on 15A, that's referendum approved debt. That's $1,812,950. And then the Fund 80 we talked about just a little while ago, $123,434. Bottom line, 16, item 16 is the full tax levy, $3,298,946, and it shows your levy rate of 11.30 mils. Doesn't leave a lot of flexibility for the district. It's pretty well set. It's a spending limit that the state sets on us. I'm going to quit there for a little bit. Questions so far?
On the budget?
Sure.
Going back to page 8, 730. You had mentioned that impacted some of the expenditure lines as well. Do you have a breakdown of where those funds are in this budget?
Yes, we have a full budget. But
because I was noticing that on page 9, 250,000, business administration had gone up over $500,000 from 2 years ago. And so I'm guessing that some of those monies are in that line as well as some other lines. Do you have a breakdown?
yeah, we have about a 75-page budget broken down.
Well, I understand that, but just from a high level, what are those funds and where do they show up in these lines?
I don't quite follow you.
Well, okay, the 1,128,509.65 that you have on page 8, 730, where do those funds show up in the expenditure lines on page 9?
He's looking at the special projects grant on page 8. Special projects.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna review that number, I'm sorry. Wondering where that. or
Oh,
wondering-
that's 730? Those are the ESSER funds.
Right, I understand
Okay.
that. I'm just trying to understand where they show up on the expenditure lines. Because I'm assuming that you're gonna spend the funds.
Yeah,
In some
they
way.
would show up over under, for instance, a number of those dollars are expended in curriculum updates, in math, and in language arts, and in science. So they would show up under undifferentiated curriculum, regular curriculum. So it's spread out throughout the whole
Right,
budget.
I assumed that, but these are funds that in all likelihood aren't gonna be there
Exactly,
in the 2022, 2023
exactly.
budget. So I'm just trying to understand, how it's impacting this year, but won't be there next year.
Yeah, it's impacting this budget by a little over $1 million. Without that, our budget went up 2%. So the expenditures on stuff that we're looking at, and we're still working on ESSER 3 budget, but ESSER 2 budget has already been expended. But we've looked at things that the district needs that we won't have to repeat in the following year. For instance, we redo the math curriculum, then that's done for a good period of time. We're looking at ventilation systems, for instance, mechanical problems that we're having in the building. Those are one-time expenditures.
Would those show up in the 250 line?
They would show up in a different place in the budget. They would show up under central services, for instance. There'd be some showing up there.
Okay. So I guess then the question would be, why the big increase in line 250, the business administration? Year to year, it looks 300,000 if you compare.
Yeah,
2 years
we
ago.
have some, there's some salaries and benefits in there of temporary people that have been hired.
So the temporary is 300,000 from?
Oh, part of it. I can't give you every dollar breakdown in that, but
I'm just looking for some
Right.
general idea.
general speaking, there's some salaries and benefits in there. I can't remember what else. Not without tearing into my big budget.
Well, I mean, if you like, I can tear into it too. I mean, is there a way?
No, I don't like. If we want a breakdown, we can get a printout, but we don't have a computer printout tonight of every dollar in every area.
Again, you got $1,128,000. Just, if you said X amount goes on this line, X amount goes on that line, things like that.
Yeah, I don't have the 1,100,000 to memory.
Look at our salary and fringes for ESSER 3. That's how much it's going to cost. So if it was 1 year, it would be about that 300,000.
Right. So a lot of it is in salaries and benefits. All right, let's take any other questions that we have. Some things on these back pages are important that I'd like to just take a couple minutes to point out. If you want to go to page 21. Some positive things about this budget. First of all, we don't have any control over equalized value, but it's always a good in the community when your equalized value of property is increasing. It increased well over 3% to the $291,813,002. The tax levy itself in the general fund actually decreased by $80,846. Debt service increased. Again, that's the principal and interest that was established when the money was borrowed. That went up $84,276 for this payment. And we increased the fund 80 by $38,016. So the total levy is increasing $41,246. The next little box shows the state aid and the increase in the state aid. And then also the levy history on the bottom box on page 21. Notice that the levy history, again, tendency for it to decrease. 2015-16, it was $3,773,419. So that's decreased steadily through the years. On page 22, again, just shows the mill rate of 11.3. The mill rate history, I think, is really important to look at. It's on a 10-year low. You had a high of in the 2016-17 school year of 14.131 mils. So the 11.305 is the lowest then in 10 years. The estimated school taxes listed in the next box. Taxes went down a little bit, or will be going down a little bit on the homes. And on the last, or on page 23 is the enrollment. Mentioned we lost 7, but there are a lot of schools reporting huge declines in student population this year across the state. So 7's not bad. And the last little box on page 23 shows open enrollment. Open number of students open enrolled into Ladysmith is 132 this year. That's a gain of 3. Open enrollment out, that's our resident students attending schools outside of the district, decreased to 96. From a revenue standpoint, revenue will increase $1,102,924 for open enrollment, and open enrollment out expenditures will be $846,091. So that's a positive gain for the district of $256,833. A lot of information in those little graphs about the history of things in the district over the last 10 years. Any other quick questions? Before we head to the annual meeting.
All right. So no further questions on
All
the
right,
budget?
thanks. Thank you for the questions.
If not, take a motion to adjourn the budget hearing.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah.
We have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The budget meeting is adjourned. And now we go into phase 2 of tonight's events. Um, We do have 3 distinct meetings tonight, each with a separate purpose. First one was simply the presentation of the budget. The second aspect, which we are beginning now, is the annual meeting. This is in a sense, a carryover from the early days of this country when there were town hall meetings. And in New England and some of the states, they still have town meeting day, 1 day a year, when basically all government's closed down and the towns hold wide open town hall meetings where the people can basically pass just about anything. At our annual meetings of school boards and cities and counties, in Wisconsin, the state has put a great deal of limits on what can be done. And essentially, it is limited to what you will see in the summary packet on the agenda of the items we can actually vote on. So, with that, we will accept nominations for a chairperson for this meeting.
I nominate Todd.
We have a nomination from Mike, from me. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations?
Going once.
That's about it. If not, we'll accept a motion to close nominations.
I move to close nominations.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And this is a vote for everybody. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I will accept a motion to accept a unanimous ballot for Todd Novikowski as the chairperson for the meeting.
I move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. I guess I am going to be proceeding then. Next is the minutes for the last annual meeting. Accept a motion to approve them as written.
So moved.
We have a motion to accept the minutes from the October 21st, 2020 annual meeting as written. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. The minutes are approved. Public comment on the budget. Is there any comments on the budget as presented? Any questions about the budget as presented? All right,
I do.
in that case, we'll move on
Oh,
to
there's
the,
a question, Todd.
yes, Ron.
Ron Freeman. Assuming you already knew that.
Yeah.
Just a question, not necessarily on this budget per se, but how does the budget look for the next school year, not this particular one, given that you are looking to do an operating referendum, in order to kind of understand that, again, I'll ask the question, how does the things in this budget, how many of those go away for future, or if you were taking this out, would you still need the operating referendum? I guess kind of in a number of questions come to mind when looking at this particular budget.
I can probably answer that. This budget, just a small picture in a big one. And it's a positive one this year because we've increased our fund balance and we have a balanced budget. Your question is a great question. What's going to happen in the future? ESSER money is going to dry up and go away. The next budget year, we're going to be looking at a deficit budget again if a levy is not passed. We had like a $200,000 deficit in the past couple of years. Didn't materialize because of ESSER last year, but we're going to be right back in the same position that we were in. So the answer, are we going to be able to have a balanced budget next year? No. I'm talking the following year.
Right, and again, that's why I was asking the questions earlier. What of those funds, affected which lines? And then, if they're going away because they're being paid for by those funds, then, that would help me understand. When I sent back my survey or did it online, I said I'm undecided because I wanted to look at the budget this year and understand the impact that, those funds that you're getting that are probably not going to be there in the future, how they would impact the budget going forward.
Right.
Again, I understand that that's not the focus of tonight, but it is in the sense that, what funds are, what expenditures aren't going to be there, what revenues aren't going to be there. Obviously, the revenues from the ESSER funds aren't.
Well, there's not going to be money there to pay staff salaries and benefits in the future, which some of it's being paid for now. But a lot of things that we're doing are things that are not going to have to be repeated next year. Repairing roofs, repairing ventilation systems. And that's part of that business thing too that I forgot to mention, that's in there too.
Okay.
But in the following budget year, you're going to be right back to a deficit budget. I can guarantee that. We're utilizing those funds the best that we can now on things that we don't have to repeat again. We don't have to rebuild a roof the following year, that type of thing. So we're trying to do our best to utilize that in the most efficient way.
Laura, haven't we hired a number of people where you said they've got 1 year and that's all based on what we've got right now? A number of people that we've hired where they've got 1 year to work here. Isn't that a lot of that money that is going into that one line item that Ron is talking about?
Yes, and actually they have 2 years to work here, because we can spread those funds out for another year beyond. And then, yes, we would be looking at what can't we afford now in the area of personnel, salaries, benefits, because those funds would be gone. But it makes a lot of sense to put some of your funding into your human resources, to really make an impact on kids, because 20% of that funding has to address the learning loss, the unfinished learning that happened due to COVID. So it's impossible to completely, bypass the need of, we need people to do this job too. So, and like Mike said, we try to focus a lot on those one-time expenditures so that, but there's definitely going to be that complicated side of the budget of, we put money into people as well. And now, when those funds run out, what can we afford? What can we not afford to continue to address the needs of the students? So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I was just trying, it just seems like we've had a couple of hires where we said you got 1 year and that's it.
Yeah,
Of those hires too, if I'm understanding Ron's question correctly, some of those hires, yeah, we've got them for 2 years, but we're hoping that some of them that for the best interest of the students, that we can keep them going, right? And so while we're using ESSER funds to pay for them now, we're hoping that we can use levy funds later when we pass a referendum, correct, kind of? I'm assuming for some of those personnel.
I think those are going to be like our really tough decisions that we are going to have to make moving forward. But yes, I agree with you.
And so not all of the ESSER 2 funds are just gonna disappear and we're not gonna need to keep using them,
Correct.
we need that money to keep coming in. And I believe last year we were a balanced budget because of COVID, because of ESSER 2 funds. And the year before, we were balanced because we shut down the school for a good portion of the school year, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't have been balanced either of those years.
Yeah, there are a number of factors that helped us be able to have a surplus from last year.
Are there any other? Tony?
So basically, if some of these funds are gonna be eliminated, these federal funds, you know roughly for the next year, not this budget, but following budget, how many dollars are gonna be shrunk from the federal government? Or how much? Have you looked at that?
Well, at least $1 million.
At least $1 million. And in this referendum that you're looking at, you're saying you're looking for an additional 600,000.
Yes.
If you're gonna lose $1 million and you're only gonna get an additional 600,000, what's with the 400,000 that's not covered? Are you then gonna shrink some of the superintendent was saying?
Well, yeah, not all the personnel that's been added will be retained.
So there will be a reduction. So why not, we are really concerned about the education of our kids. Why not ask for, rather than 600,000, ask for $1 million? Cover the shortfall that that'll go.
I wasn't on the committee for the referendum and how they came up with the number, but they came up with that 600,000 on top of what it's going to take to fix this building. And the intent is to not increase taxes. We've got a big debt, that 1,800,000 and some thousand. This is the last year for that debt retirement. That drops off. And the intent is to, if we added the 600,000 a year for operation costs, and then added the debt for replacing univent systems, other ventilation systems, foundation problems, I could go on and on with all the issues in this building, that the cost would not exceed what the taxes are today. That was the intent, is to try to get this done without having a big bearing on the property owners in the school district. So that's where the 600 came up with, on top of the construction part of it, remodeling. And when we hired some of these positions, yes, we'd like to keep, but when we hired a number of them, we knew that it was gonna be a temporary thing. And those people knew it was gonna be a temporary thing. Some may be retained from retirements and stuff like that, but ultimately, some of those positions are gonna disappear.
And the 20 million construction monies, I hope it has been looked at as wisely. Because the last time we had $11 million construction project, we ended up building a Hawkins, $2 million Hawkins building, and a year later we closed it. We spent $6 million on the junior high addition. And again, you know, that building is such a huge building for only 350 kids. I hope it's done wisely. I think if you look at the focus, ultimately, that junior high is going to be going to be closed. And I think in the long range, you're going to do a long range plan, 5, 10 years, 15 years. Look at consolidating everything in this facility. So I hope, because I wasn't involved when you guys came up with that 20 million, what things you were going to plan on. But I hope you're looking down the road at that 20 million that you're spending is spent wisely. This last time it was spent foolishly.
Okay, we'll take that input.
Like I say, I wasn't involved, so I really can't comment beyond that.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions about the, or comments about the budget? If not, we'll move on to the adoption of the tax levy. Accept a motion to approve it.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve a tax levy of $3,298,946 to be placed on the equalized valuation of the real property of the school district of Ladysmith. $1,051,122 for operations, $2,124,396 for debt retirement, and $123,434 for community service and $0 for levy chargeback. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any comments, discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then move on to the salaries of board members. Accept the motion to approve the compensation for the board members.
I move.
We have a motion to approve the compensation for the board president and clerk be set at $1,800 and $1,600 for all the board of education members for the 21-22 school year. This is unchanged from the present year. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Ron?
Are these the same as this current?
Yes, yes. There's no increase. So. Any other questions, comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The reimbursement of board member expenses. Accept the motion.
I move.
We A motion to approve board members be reimbursed for mileage at the IRS rate per mile for use of their personal vehicles for the school business and for expenses for public transportation, food, and lodging while conducting Board of Education business at the IRS accepted reimbursement rates, and $50 per full day for attendance at meetings which cause board members to be absent from their jobs. Do we have a second?
Yeah.
Do we have a second? Any discussion?
I just have one question.
Yes, Ron.
Just trying to understand that $50 per day. So if someone is retired, does that mean that they don't get the 50? Is that the way I'm understanding that?
That's right.
Okay.
That's the way it's been enforced. Because basically it's like if someone goes to the state meeting and they miss a couple days of work, those of us who are retired, they figure we don't need that extra money. But someone who is not retired, it's a minimal compensation for missing a day's work. This proposed motion is a slight change from the previous year when reimbursement was at 25%, 25 cents per mile for mileage, and it is just being increased to the standard IRS rate. Are there any other comments, questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, motion to establish a date for the 2022 budget hearing. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve the 2022 budget hearing beginning at 5:30 PM and the 2022 annual meeting beginning at 5:45 PM to be held on Wednesday, October 19th, 2022.
A second.
Do we have a second? Any discussion, comments? If not,
We had discussed moving it earlier. No?
part of the problem you run into is waiting for the state certification to come out.
No, I mean earlier in the day, like
Oh,
five. I don't know what you would move it to, but it had been mentioned at one point in time.
Like 5:25.
Something
like
there you go.
Right.
Yeah, okay, I'm good with that.
I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay.
It's too far out.
If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I guess we're at the point where we'll accept a motion to adjourn the annual meeting.
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Good.
Any discussion? No. All those in favor of adjourning the annual meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The annual meeting is adjourned. Until next year. All right. Everybody just take a breath. And then we will move into the regular meeting. And we're actually only 4 minutes behind schedule.
You better keep going.
I think we might have some papers.
Thank you, Ron.
Good one.
We might have papers that we can help you. I've seen some
Right.
people grabbing some.
All right, we have any additional public comment papers? Please get them up here, fill them out, and get them up. There's a meteor shower tonight.
Really?
Not that you'll be able to see it.
No,
pouring out right now.
Yeah, I can hear that.
okay. We'll call this Board of Education meeting to order. Tonight's Board of Education meeting is a business meeting. You are welcome to make comments during the public input section. That portion of the meeting is not intended to be a discussion period. It is governed by the district policy 0167.3, which is public comment at board meetings. Those who wish to speak need to complete a short form and submit it to the board president prior to the beginning of the period. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 5 minutes. Participants shall direct all comments to the board, not to staff or other participants. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. Please do not address or question board members individually. Be aware that the board will listen, but will probably not respond during the period of public comment. If the item is on the agenda for the evening, the board discussion will take place at that time. If it is not on the agenda, and if it needs to be in the future, the item will be placed on a future meeting agenda by the board president. Participants should only address topics written or topics within a legitimate jurisdiction of the board. And the presiding officer may interrupt or stop a person if need be. We do ask for your consideration and ask that you not interrupt during the business portions of this meeting. As I said, this is not a discussion period. The board members all can be contacted in numerous ways. Their contact information is all listed on the school webpage. So, without further ado, we'll take a roll call.
Jeff?
Here.
Melissa here. Mike?
Here.
Todd?
Here.
Jared?
Here.
And Krista is absent.
Oh, Krista, sorry.
All right, we'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as published on board docs.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any changes? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda is approved. Public comment. I received one form from Julie.
I really don't know what I'm
And
commenting
would you
on.
come up and toe the line, as the line goes? Provided you can get here.
Okay. I don't think I'm prepared to make a public comment on this yet because it hasn't been posted what the changes are. At this time, I looked on the board agenda and it's not there. So I guess I would ask that you maybe not vote on that tonight until that has been posted so that I know what the proposed changes are going to be.
Now, have they been moved out of the executive session so they are viewable?
When were they moved though?
But-
I've been
Okay.
checking in the past 5
Yeah,
minutes.
so Julie, first of all, an apology. It accidentally got placed in executive session when I heard you talking to Todd. I went over and spoke with Denise right away and said, I think that policy got placed in executive and she's not going to be able to see that. So I quickly edited it, and I sent you an email, but that's okay. I mean, it wasn't, I would have texted you, but I didn't have you on my phone. But I did send you an email and say that it was moved over. So that was done, at the start of the meeting, 5:30.
What are we talking about?
The field trip policy,
Okay.
it had been attached to executive, and so she wasn't able to view it.
It might be,
Can you read that to me now then? That'd be awesome.
yeah, that's, you have a very valid point, Julie. It might be worth our time to table that until the next board meeting, just to make sure that the proposed changes are all out there and available for you to see.
That would be, I would appreciate that very much.
So does that make sense? All right.
Yeah,
Okay,
Is
thank
that- Thank you, Julie.
there's no rush on that.
It's probably done this way. All right. Administrative reports. COVID update. COVID dashboard. Um, 9% of the students quarantined at the elementary, 14 at the middle, and 1 at the high school. So far, so good. Anybody have any questions about that? Go to dashboard.
I think you're looking at the percent, Todd?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's what I was just looking at. So far, we've been lucky. Except for those of us who came down positive.
Good, take better care of yourself.
I know. All right. Enrollment chart. Any questions, comments about that?
I think that Mike kind of explained a lot of that.
Right.
But, the head count, which is the number of students that we serve on a day-to-day basis, that is up by 4 students. So last month I gave you the preliminary numbers, so these are the final numbers with the
So how does that square with the number on the DPI website? Because we were down like 0.93, basically 1% on their website.
I don't know if I'm familiar with that 0.93
Okay.
piece in there.
I just looked at it today.
Yeah, so because FTEs, you can see those are down. And
Yeah.
everything on that website looks at the FTE number.
Right.
So,
So
and
that's,
that is down a little bit. You can see that 724.
yeah,
minus
so that's
719.
probably the
Yep.
correlation.
Yep.
Okay.
Nathan, we have you go first every night. How about if we have Greg go first?
And before he starts, I'm gonna just clarify one other thing too. Another thing that's a little bit confusing is when Michael is talking about FTEs, he's including on that revenue limit worksheet, he's including summer school. And when we're reporting out on this chart,
Yeah, right.
we are looking just at our regular school year.
Yeah, I think that's what the DPI
Okay.
looks at too.
Yep,
They don't care
they do.
about summer school.
Okay, Nathan, sorry.
I think Todd voted for me. All right,
What's fair is fair,
what? Fine, whatever. So like it says, I'll just kind of recap this quick. Things got way crazy with teachers being out of the building. At one point, we had 7 teachers out and 1 sub. Myself, Mr. Gago, the guidance counselors, where everybody was regularly in classrooms covering classes to keep the doors open. And even more so the teachers covering for each other. The teachers did an amazing job covering other classes. At times they were covering 2 or 3 classes lumped together. So the teachers who were out were able to put things into Google Classroom so their classes could be working. And we could use one teacher to supervise in multiple classes at the same time. So we tried doing that as well. Obviously, nothing is as good as having the teacher here live and in person, but the teachers did do a great job covering. So I want to give them kudos for that. We're rolling with PLCs and PBIS. RTI is coming along a little bit slower, but that also wraps right into our PLC process of talking about students and what their needs are and how we help them. We are starting to collect and share some information about semesters and trimesters. That'll be coming next month as to which way we think we need to be going and making that recommendation. And, you know, with all those teachers being out, it was stressful for the kids too, and it showed, but as we've gotten all the teachers back and most of our students back, things seem to be leveling out again. So the atmosphere in the building is getting better again. It was touchy for a while, but it's got back on the right track.
Okay, any questions?
Yeah, are we gonna be able to, the question I brought up to you about the kids that fell behind last year, are we gonna be able to address that next month, maybe?
Yes.
See where we're at?
Yes.
Okay. And how do you think that's going now?
I guess I'm not sure what the specific question is there.
The specific question is, last year, you guys gave a presentation on kids that had fallen underneath the 30%
Oh.
level on math and reading.
Yeah, that's part of the RTI group, and we're actually having not an administrative level, but a administrative counselor meeting on that specifically tomorrow, and then we're going into with the middle school grade levels later this week and into next week to specifically address those kids with the data, with the testing we did this fall to see exactly where we're at. So we'll be able to speak more specifically to that at the next meeting.
And we're tracking them individually.
Yes.
That's all right.
Any other questions? Nathan?
All right. Well, I can quick address that question too. Is we actually are having our data meeting tomorrow with each grade level teachers as a group, and our title group, myself, and we also have CISA coming in to talk to the teachers about how we can help those kids that fall below that 30th percentile. So we have a whole team coming together during each of their preps to talk about the students that fell below that 30th percentile on our fast bridge testing as of this fall.
So, and when you do that, since you brought it up, are there specific countermeasures you're gonna discuss if they're not,
So talk
if
about
they're not
small
making the
groups,
leap
title.
forward like we need them to?
What's that?
If they're not making the leap forward like we need them to, or they need to, it's not.
So we're gonna
Someone
have
to
them,
follow
they'll
up.
be either working with title groups, they'll either be working in small groups or individual instructions. We have 2 grade levels that actually have a specific tutor that will be in there helping with them too.
Okay, cool, thanks.
And then moving along, a couple weeks ago, we had our parent-teacher conference. We had roughly 80% of our parents show up either in person, virtually, by phone, by email, kind of whatever worked best for them and what they felt comfortable with. It was nice having parents, back in the building, kind of mingling with the teachers too. They did enjoy that, but we also did enjoy the virtual sessions too. PBIS is moving along. One thing that we have started to add is our tier 2 PBIS. Those are for some of our kids that are struggling more so with some behaviors other than just kind of the general, talking out of turn type things. Some of those more severe things, we're kind of doing a deep dive, kind of like we are with our academics. So we're working on that. And then I also wanted to do a shout out to, kind of like Greg did, to my teachers for helping out. We had a couple weeks there where it was touch and go with a lot of staff members out, and the staff did a very good job of filling in for each other, helping out where they could, losing their prep, multiple people jumping in. It didn't matter. We made sure we covered the classrooms. So I just wanted to give them all a shout out. Other than that, were there any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Now that we're kind of getting back to normal this year, in the past, we had some parent involvement committees, and are we going to be working towards that again? I would hate to see all the hard work that.
The plan is to, yes, try and have some of those. We do have a couple ideas that I talked to Laura about today with some parent involvement, family engagement stuff, but also have it kind of COVID style. So we do have some ideas that are floating around that we would like to start getting moving on. It's, we had a month there where stuff started ramping up, so we kind of put the brakes on, but now we want to start revisiting that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Mrs. Dunkel.
Okay. Okay, so the facility, the roof update, pretty much the gym roof is done. The little roofs that they're working on connected to the gym and Mr. Tyndall's old classroom, those are still somewhat in progress, but they're being worked on. Let's see. ESSER 3. We had a really good idea that came out from the staff. Besides doing the staff email and the parent or the staff survey and the parent survey, also just kind of an open line of communication with email. And there were some really good ideas about starting an after-school tutoring program at the high school level to help address some of the learning loss from COVID. And so, we're working on putting that plan into action. And so we should have way more to talk about at the next meeting, but within the next couple of weeks, that should be up and running. Our website, we're looking at changing our website over to a better website contractor. And so that we're looking at CMS for schools. And so we as an administrative team, and then also Carrie Becker, who does a lot of our website design, and she really kind of is in charge of the website. She's very excited about this changeover. So I think it'll be great for our families, it'll improve communication, but it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. This is a process that takes approximately 4 to 5 months to build a website and launch it. But this spring or late winter, we should have a really nice design ready to go for parents, complete with a nice app to really just work on that communication and that connection with our families. Alice training, that went out to all the families yesterday afternoon, just letting all the families know that we're training your students on Friday. So all of our staff have been trained. Now all of the students are going to be trained. Law enforcement comes in and takes over and does all of that training for us. Phil Grassman is kind of an expert in that area. Well, he is an expert in that area. So we'll do the training at the elementary school in the morning at 8:30, and then we'll do 10 o'clock at the Ladysmith Middle School, High School over here. And every school in Rusk County uses Alice training for their lockdown, evacuate, just all of that. So it'll be really good to get our students trained as well. So put out a skylert to all the families, so it's no surprise. We don't want to surprise or scare anyone. And then after the drill is over, I'll put out another skylert, letting all the families know that it's over and how it went. That way, if they see kids rushing out of the building and they're driving by, they know it's part of the drill. Substitute teachers, like they've talked about, our teachers have stepped up to the plate because we are so limited in substitute teachers, and we are not the only ones. It's not a Ladysmith problem. It's all over. It's a problem. So to do what we can, put some more ads in the paper. You'll probably see them in last week's paper and this week's paper, trying to just get more people interested in helping out with subbing, advertising our rate, $125 a day, letting people know that you don't have to have a teaching degree. You have to have a 2-year associate's degree, and you can come in and sub for us. 2-year associate's degree or higher. So just really doing all we can to try to get a few more people from our community to come in and help out with subbing. And then a little update, we had some discussions about meeting the needs of kids in quarantine. So I just want to re-communicate that out again, that really the principals and the staff have really tackled that problem. And, you know, we are providing, if students are quarantined due to COVID, there is developmentally appropriate lessons ready for them. That means, for the most part, middle school and high school, there's a live streaming ready available. At the elementary, it kind of depends on what the teacher is doing and what the lesson is about and the age level of the students. But those teachers are working all that out with parents and students. So, wanted you to know that. Any questions?
Can I throw one more thing out there that Laura, when she was talking about subs, reminded me. Another one I had to throw out there is Mr. Ken. I drawn a blank on his last name all of a sudden here. McLaughlin, thank you, yes. He has been here for us like almost every single day this school year. He's put aside family vacations. His wife has left to go south for the winter already. He is staying specifically for our students. I wanted to kind of publicly acknowledge that and thank him for being here like every single day.
Yeah.
I know the teachers have appreciated what he has done.
Yes. And I think he's been here for every single one of them at some point or another.
And then he shows up at the sporting events.
Yes.
You know, afterwards. So yeah, he's really dedicated.
Can I make a comment on that? Or not?
Hmm?
Can I make a comment on that or not?
On him?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I
Kudos
just-
for a person who
Well, I
helps.
just want to mention, yes, he's awesome. The kids love him. He's here almost all the time, helping us, supporting us. I just want to mention that I have some friends that are studying in another district, and they offer a little bonus to subs that sub so many days in the district. So that might be a way of maybe getting some people to be in our district and be here on a regular basis, like Mr. Ken, just to give him a little thank you, a little bonus with maybe some of that extra money that we have to spend. So.
I know we do have
That I
a
mention.
long-term sub policy, but obviously this would not qualify under that as a long-term sub, but obviously a very busy sub bonus might be something worth thinking about. Thank you, Julie.
Yep.
Okay, that's the one exception.
Sorry.
All right, moving on. The seclusion restraint report.
Okay, so you can, you know, basically it just shows at the elementary school, and this is put together by our special ed director, school psych, Kelly Betterkind. She's in charge of keeping track of all of this at both buildings as a district employee. And at the elementary, we did have last year 2 incidents of seclusion and 2 restraints. That was the same student, was a seclusion and a restraint. And reports are completed. I mean, everything is done by the letter of the law, but it is required by law that we report to our board and our community on an annual basis that these procedures took place in our school. At the middle school, high school, there were 0 seclusion and 1 restraint. And all of our staff is trained. Well, I shouldn't say all of our staff. All of our staff that work with higher needs students are trained in safe holds for restraint. And like I said, seclusion is just separation from the class. So it's not behind a locked door or anything like that. It is just separation from the classroom.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Let's have the motion.
Move to approve the consent agenda?
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do we have a second? Any changes, questions? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Okay.
Opposed? Motion carries.
motion to approve the minutes from September 15th, 2021.
Oh, we don't have to, that's why we approved the whole thing.
Sorry,
You're good to go.
I guess scroll.
All right.
Hang on.
Now we are going to the filling the school board member opening.
Do I motion first before we interview, or how does that work?
I guess we probably should interview first, huh?
Yeah, because I can't make a motion for anybody.
Yeah.
So I have the brief, you want me to have them pick a number, or? how do you want to
Yes.
do that?
What our procedure will be is we will interview each one of you. We have some questions for you. We would ask that the two who are, until you have had your chance to take the hot seat, if you could go out into the hall just to, so we can kind of keep the interview separate. And Denise has you can pick a number 1 through 3, and we'll go in that order.
I think you guys interviewed me.
Todd, where do you want them to sit or stand? Because like
think
that
that's the way
seat there. where
Yeah.
Darren sits? Good.
Okay, so Tony, you must be number 1.
You're right.
We'll give you the seat right next to Jeff. That way you're in the camera and our viewing audience can see you while you're talking.
We'll see what I write down about it.
Angle here.
All right. Candidate number 1 is Anton East. Tony's Easter. All right, Tony, describe your experience working on other boards or with a public service organization, if you would.
Well, many years ago, I used to be on the Ladysmith School Board. Currently, I serve on our town board. I also am the president of the Family Health Center of the Marshall Clinic. I've been there for a number of years. Let's see, any other organizations? Can't remember offhand. Oh, I did serve on Monsignor College, again, many years ago. I was on their board. Most of it is in the past. I've been retired for a number of years and trying to run, well, I'm not actively involved, but I run the tour house. Any other question?
Okay, describe what you would consider to be the role of a good school board member.
Well, I thought about Ladysmith School because my in-laws, my father-in-law graduated from the Ladysmith School back in the 1920s. He had an excellent education, very successful business person. My wife graduated in the 60s from Ladysmith. Again, very successful. And my kids all graduated in the 90s, give or take a few years back and forth, and extremely successful. So when I look back at Ladysmith, the emphasis was always on the students, no matter what the cost was. We generally ran a little bit higher than some of the other districts in terms of finances, but we concentrated on providing the best quality education for the kids. whether it's in the academic field, those kids who go on to college, or I should say universities, or those kids who go on to the technical colleges. We provide fantastic instructions. And we even provide excellent education for those kids who want to stay in town and work within the various industries. And the things that have changed, and this is why I mentioned about before about your request for additional funding. Because when I reflect on back in the 20s, the big emphasis was on the auto industry, so mechanics and that kind of thing. In the 60s, it was education, special education, because that's when the federal government came up with that. So a lot of education, a lot of kids went into the education program. When my kids graduated in the 90s, the big emphasis was on computer technology. And I know the school went all out at that time to do that. But when I look back, look now towards the future, it's going to be robotics and artificial intelligence. I see that already with some companies like Weather Shield, Norco. They use a lot of automation to do their assemblies. Back in the 70s, I did a short stint at Norco, and it was very little machines. Everything was still something manually assembled. So I hope that the school district looks ahead and looks towards the future, providing that kind of education for the kids. Robotics, artificial intelligence, computer programming. That's so important because that's where the big dollar jobs are going to be. I see it in a little interview with Abilene meat packing plant. They bought a bunch of machinery from Korea, totally automated machinery. They could not find anybody within Abbotsford in the school districts to operate those machineries. They went back to Korea and hired 50 Koreans to operate those machines. And they are basically numerically controlled, computer controlled machines, but you have to provide in the education, and it's not just at the high school level, but it's also the VTA level. Instructions and teaching these kids what's the future is all about as far as the kinds of skills that they have to be successful in those new companies. And more companies are going towards totally automation. No more robots welding pieces, but actually Elon Musk with his new Tesla trucks, he's making huge molds that just bolt together and that's it, no more welding. So I hope being on the school board, I can put some input to get you guys to spend more money on those kinds of things as opposed to brick and mortar. I graduated from a high school which was considered in Milwaukee the oldest high school in the city. Very rundown, plaster peeling off the walls. Yet it was considered to be the best high school in the state of Wisconsin. The brick and mortar does not produce quality education, it's the teachers. I remember the teachers that my kids went through, Mr. Matson, Mr. Klavitter, Mrs. Bricko, Mr. Marinucci. And I had my kids all take vocational classes and academic classes, because that rounds you out to be the best kind of person. And, well, I haven't kept up the last 20 years with what's going on in the school. But the fact that you went and hired additional people with some of the COVID money to help the kids, I applaud you on that. And I hope you can maybe even retain some of them. That's why I said maybe 600,000 isn't enough. Maybe you need to go for $1 million. Don't be squeamish. Because shortchanging the kids is not the way I think that this district has always been. So, any other?
Okay, describe what you believe are the strengths and weaknesses of this school district.
Well, the strengths, like I say, is that they always did what's best for and hired the best teachers, what's best for the kids. Some of the weaknesses, as I mentioned before, is that the last big referendum a number of years ago, 11 million added on, and only closed Hawkins a year later and sold it for pennies. Don't concentrate tonight. Don't concentrate on brick and mortar too much. It does not provide quality education. But anyway, that's my personal opinion from my experience. And,
Okay, our next question actually is in your opinion, what are the three most important educational trends coming in the near future, but you kind of really hit upon that in one of the previous answers, so.
And I speak as a bit of having some knowledge regarding that, because my two sons both work in the electronics industry. One son works for Apple. If any of you have an Apple's cell phone, he designed the processor for the Apple V. He's working on some stuff right now that I cannot divulge, because that's not allowed. The other son works for a Taiwanese computer chip manufacturer, but he now has been moonlighting as a consultant for General Motors for their autonomous driving vehicles to come up with a chip that, I should say, takes in all of the sensors and puts it into one chip. They had a little bit difficulty in figuring it all out, and his specialty is exactly doing that. They're extremely wealthy, extremely successful, but I know there's been many other Ladysmith high school kids who've done super well, okay? So the future lies in, like I say, in artificial intelligence and supercomputing. I hope Ladysmith will start a course on getting these kids to do video game graphics. That is a big business, a lot of money in it. I know the kids love to play the video games, but try to design something, do it. And there is a demand, tremendous demand for that. It's not difficult either. That's the sad part. People think, this is all high tech, that it requires a lot of brain power, but it doesn't. It just, you have to learn it, So hopefully you'll get a teacher that can teach that.
Okay, describe your priorities when it comes to making educational decisions. Where do you rank things like student achievement, facilities, technology, staffing, extracurricular activities, and so on?
Well, like I said, you're not going to get successful kids unless you get some good teachers. But that's number one, quality teachers. Two, the teachers can't do a good job unless they have the right resources that you can give them. And once you have that, if you have a good program in place as far as how you administer, your classroom settings and things like that, the kids will learn. And then finally, I think you have to concentrate. I think when I was on the school board, there was a lot of criticism that it wasn't very good counseling for those kids when they graduated. And that is so important that you counsel the kids so that they aren't afraid to pursue their dreams. And I remember one of the school board members' daughter at the county fair. I talked to her. I says, well, what are you going to do? Well, she doesn't know. She might go to Eau Claire, blah, blah, blah. He says, no. They're smart. Why don't you apply for Harvard Medical School? Guess what? She got in. And she graduated. She's a doctor. So anyway, you got to counsel them. Don't give up. Whatever you want, pursue it. You look at some of these multi-billionaires, they never finished college, but they had a dream and they pursued it. They became successful. So, like I say, it doesn't matter. Anything else?
Okay, last but not least, describe your vision of an outstanding school system.
Well, like I said, I used to work for CISA 12, and I went to a number of different schools, and half a dozen of them. And I can tell you, Ladysmith was still, I would consider the best. The programs that we had was excellent. It doesn't matter if you're going to go with, like I heard somebody, the principal saying a trimester or a bimester or whatever. Whatever you go with, as long as you have a good program in place, it's going to continue to be a good school. I know you had leaky roofs. I finally convinced Rubel way back when to put in steel roofing. Okay. Hopefully that has solved some of the leaks. However, you still have some flat roofs. Those are just going to be a constant problem. But it's still a good building. And hopefully it'll last us another 20 years. The school I graduated from was 100 years old when I went there. And it's still standing, believe it or not, and they're still running the school. And that was 50 years ago. So it's 150 now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And you can stay here if you want. Kyle, would you invite number 2 in? Or the second person, I should say. Number 2's up.
This the hot seat?
Yes, it is, Dustin. Oh. Spell your name right here.
Good luck.
Dustin is easy.
Yeah.
Yep.
The rest is good.
Hey, he's a ski, what can I say?
Yeah. With Dustin and Steve.
Couple extra letters in there.
All right, Dustin, we have a series of questions. Describe your experience working on other boards or with public service organizations.
I suppose fire department qualified for a public service organization. I've been with the fire service since 2017. Participated in various boards, committees, and regarding different equipment purchases and planning, things like that. That's about the extent of my public service.
Okay. Describe what you consider to be the role of a good school board member.
I think the role of a good school board member has to provide balance, right? You have to be able to balance between community activities and professional activities, plus taking into consideration how the students are being treated and taught. Kind of laying out the path and the direction of the school and helping guide that.
Okay, what do you believe are the strengths and weaknesses of this school district?
I think the strengths are that it is a tight community, a small community, so everybody knows everybody and everybody's able to kind of chip in and help out. One of the weaknesses is probably that it is a small community, and you get a lot of people that want to chime in and voice their opinions, but not really follow through with it.
So kind of
Yeah.
goes back to your balance.
It's a balance.
In your opinion, what are the three most important educational trends coming in the near future?
Definitely the trades. I think the trades are really exploding. In the company that I work for, we're begging for people that know how to use a wrench or a hammer or a voltmeter, things of that nature. So I think the trades are probably number one. Number two, I think virtual learning in certain aspects, like if a student wanted to take on some additional classes, maybe some college type classes or things of that nature online, virtually. And then three, I think it's just probably the engagement in general. I think that kids require a different type of engagement than they did when I was in school or when you guys were in school. So I think everything's evolving. I know we're seeing it in the industry side of things where the type of people that we're interviewing, the type of people that we're hiring, they're not the same as when I hired on. They don't have the same personalities. So I see that as a change.
Okay. Describe your priorities when it comes to making educational decisions. Where do you rank things like student achievement, facilities, technology, staffing, extracurricular activities, and so on?
But student achievement is going to be number one. In order to have positive student achievement, you need facilities that are up to date. Technology is up to date. They're safe. You need staff that are trained, that are willing to assist in many different areas. I think that's about how I lay it out.
One last question. Describe your vision of an outstanding school system.
I would say students that are able to get the education at the pace and the style that they require. I think it's pretty common for us to teach people how we want to teach them, and I think that every kid has a different learning style. But having that flexibility and being able to switch things up, I see that as being a benefit. Seeing kids that leave school and stay in the area, I would like to see that. When we were looking at the numbers earlier, you could see the steady trend going down of students. So the students that leave, they take an entire family with them. So I'd like to see a way to keep them around.
Okay, thank you. You are invited to stay here and listen to Alan when he gives his responses. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Last but not least.
Yeah.
I'm number 3.
It's number 3.
He's allowed to be in here, correct, Mr.?
Yeah, he's more than welcome.
They get to be in here to hear me.
Yeah. See, you're used to public speaking.
A little.
All right, Alan, we have a series of questions to ask you. Describe your experience working on other boards with public service organizations.
All right. Well, my first experience on boards and public service organizations probably goes back to my time starting with the Ladysmith JCs. That would have been around 2010. I was actually elected treasurer there in 2014 and received recognition as state treasurer of the year that year for both the first half of the year and the second half of the year. And I can provide copies of those plaques to anyone that needs to see them. I also, in my duties with the Ladysmith JCs, we're the charter organization for the local Boy Scout troop. So I serve as the adult contact for that. Then through the city, some of our past mayors have appointed me to various boards and commissions. I served on the Ladysmith Park Board in 2010 to about 2013. Also had a few stints on the Ladysmith Planning Commission. Both mayors Reynolds and Goodis thought highly enough of me to appoint me to those positions. In 2018, I ran for the office of mayor here in the city and was elected to that. It was actually the largest margin of victory in a mayoral election here in Ladysmith, according to the Ladysmith News. So take a little pride in that the citizens of Ladysmith put their vote of confidence in me. Did run for that office again spring of 2020 and was elected, but declined election to take the administrator position. So I do definitely have a lot of experience serving on boards, committees, commissions, including the top officer levels, both in community organizations and local government.
Okay. Describe what you consider to be the role of a good school board member.
I think first and foremost is creating a positive environment at your school, both in terms of what you provide for the students, but also the image you project to the community. You certainly need community support for fundraisers, upcoming referendums. It's definitely good to have a good positive public image going into those things versus a damaged reputation. But yeah, primarily you're there to create a great environment for the students that's going to provide them with wonderful childhoods, also prepare them for life as working adults and productive members of society.
Describe what you believe are the strengths and weaknesses of our school district.
Well, weaknesses, I would say, are the overall declining population, leading to some declining enrollments. Obviously, looking at the budget numbers that were presented here and getting to see the enrollments over the last 10 years or so, that certainly presents a problem. The age of a lot of the infrastructure here, as evidenced by the upcoming, pending building referendums, those are definitely weaknesses, but you can also turn some of those into strengths, I think. It's a good way to get the community again to rally around you and be supportive of the changes you're going to be making. It's also a way to just sort of brighten up the community. I think having a good, strong school district that has a good, positive image plays well in the community. From the city side of things, we're facing the same issues, declining population. We've got plenty of available jobs, more on the way if you've seen recent announcements, but who's going to fill those? Where are they going to live? Having a solid school district plays well for the city and being able to attract people, and having a strong city with a positive image, I think, plays well for the school district. I think there's definitely a good relationship that can be built there, and I think each of those depend on each other. And I feel like that's something I can bring to the table, is sort of a connection between the city and the school district.
In your opinion, what are the 3 most important educational trends coming in the near future?
I think your tech ed, your STEM is very important. If you look at even some of the positions that places are having trouble filling locally, it's CNC operators, it's engineers and things like that. I think your current staff has done a great job in helping set up that department for the future, reaching out to groups like the city and the Industrial Development Corporation for assistance in funding some of the new equipment that you have there. I'm always impressed to see what that department puts out back when they were able to have open houses and things like that. I think that's definitely a trend. I think I've been seeing a trend in more flexible learning, realizing that not everybody fits in to specific silos, needing to play more to individual strengths and foster those interests and gifts that they have, can really help us create more productive folks for the future. So.
Okay. Describe your priorities when it comes to making educational decisions. Where do you rank things like student achievement, facilities, technology, staffing, extracurricular activities, and so on?
Well, they're all definitely important. Student achievement, I would say, is probably the top one. Again, though, and it depends on how you look at student achievement. Is it that everybody knows how to pass a calc test, or is it that some people can pass a calc test and some people can run a CNC machine and create wonderful things with that? The extracurricular activities are definitely important too. I think positive stuff like that keeps students from getting into more negative activities if they're just kind of out on their own. I know in my time here at school, I participated in sports and a few clubs, and I know my time in those, I feel like helped definitely shape me into what I am today, especially in terms of learning teamwork, learning to work with others of different skill sets, different beliefs.
Okay, and last, describe your vision of an outstanding school system.
Well, I think one that that serves all its students, but also serves the adult populations, whether that's the students' parents, individuals without students, retirees, what have you. I look at the Flambeau School District for an example at some of the adult ed or continuing ed type of things that they offer there. And I think the school can really be a central hub for a community. So I'd like to see more things like that offered here. I know that there's certainly budget limitations and things like that, but there's certainly opportunities to be creative. So I think a successful school is well established as a hub of its community and carries an overall positive image among the majority of its residents and residents in surrounding districts.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now, here comes our task. It's our job to vote for the person we think would be most beneficial or should be on the school board. And we have Gerard's famous hat coming around.
Has that been disinfected?
All you have to do is drop it in. She's got to reach them out and read them.
I would not like to try it out. I have enough problems with hair growth as it is.
Hey, it was clean. It was washed.
Yeah, what century?
Actually, it's brand new today.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Did you wear it just for this?
Yeah.
Okay, yep,
You wanna read them? I will write down.
sure.
So.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
One for Dustin, one for Alan, one for Dustin, one for Dustin, and one for Alan.
Okay, so it looks like Dustin.
Dustin has 3, Alan has 2.
These.
Okay, Melissa, read the motion.
Okay, I motion to approve Dustin Metazinski to fill the opening on the school board until the spring election in 2022.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by
Could you
saying aye.
just kind of say a thank you for all the candidates?
Yes, you certainly may.
Thank you.
Thank you all three of
Thank
you.
you, Tony. Very good, very hard decision.
Well, yeah, it was. All right, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So Melissa, you may swear Dustin into the school board.
I didn't realize that was part of this deal.
Yeah, it's short and
Marissa.
sweet. All you have to do is read it. And Dustin, you get to come up and take the empty seat. I guess the seat is yours.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Put his hand up or anything like
I'm
that.
looking forward to.
You gotta stand up there. won't you?
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Dustin, do you understand?
Yeah.
You say this, don't you? I don't say it, you do, right?
So, no, that's okay. So we will fill your name in here.
Okay.
And you can just read through here and then you sign. Okay?
Okay.
And then you have to sign.
I, Dustin Metazinski, having been elected or appointed to the office of the School District of Ladysmith Board of Education member, but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof, swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability. So help me God.
Okay, so then you need to sign right there.
Right here?
Yeah, right here.
Does he get to keep the pen?
Melissa's mine.
Over here.
Next meeting, next meeting.
Yeah, it's the first pen I got, they've been on the board a lot.
All right, and moving on then. Approve the replacement of the Ladysmith Educational Enrichment Fund Committee member. Replace Colleen.
So Colleen was on it. Dustin, are you interested in being on the leave, or was there anybody else that was interested?
You are on it, right?
Yes, I am.
So I guess it's up to Gerard, Jeff, Mike, or Dustin. Your first meeting is what, in about 2 weeks, huh?
Yeah. I'd be happy.
Happy to? It's really interesting.
It is.
It's where they take all this money and they give it to teachers to apply for projects and grants.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
All right,
I can try to show you.
Motion to approve Dustin Mazinski as the leave committee member to replace Colleen Peters.
second.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Start.
Motion to approve the Start College Now and Early College Credit Program course requests as presented.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. And these are something for me to sign. All the people who are going to get requesting college credit for second semester classes or
Too much.
there we have it. We all completed the paperwork except for Jonathan, who will have this in shortly. All right, any questions, comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to approve the 2021-22 early graduation requests as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Have one trimester one graduate for request and 246 requesting for trimester two.
Can I ask the trimester one? I know we have talked about this before. We really would prefer that they graduate early at trim two. Is there a specific reason that that person is?
I can't see the list, so off the top of my head, I don't know who this is.
Oh, do you want to come and look?
Yeah.
Yeah, come and look, because you would be
Yeah,
better to
and,
speak on it.
and technically by policy, you don't have to approve the trimester two ones. I'm allowed to do that. You're approving the trimester.
Okay.
The only extent I know is exactly what is on that sheet. I believe the student is well ahead in credits. And just simply looking to start work to earn money to go to school and start the schooling process.
Any other questions, comments? If not, all those in favor
Yeah, I got it.
signify by saying aye.
About 5 minutes. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Line of credit.
Motion to approve the 2021-22 line of credit for $600,000.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Laura?
Yeah, just as a safety net precautionary measure, We did this last year at this time, at this October board meeting. We actually didn't have to use that line of credit at all. But it's something that annually the board has approved that line of credit, and just as a safety net. So I would say that if we do this one more year and we don't use it again this year, that we probably could, move away from it. It really was helpful in the past because we had to pay all of our teacher salaries at the beginning of the summer, and now everybody gets their checks year round. It's every other week, no matter what. There's no choice in that. So that has really helped keep the cash, the checkbook and the budget a little bit more equal. But, we kind of felt like we should have that safety net one more year, just in case.
It doesn't cost us anything to have it, right?
Well, you do pay a little interest on it. So yes, there is a cost.
You have a rough idea of what that
Yeah, about, we would probably, interest rates are low, maybe a couple of thousand to run that line of credit. And as soon as we know that we don't need it, we would, pay it off and not use it to save on the interest.
Is it a line of credit, or do we actually borrow the money and put it in the checking account?
If we don't need it, we don't use it. So we actually.
But we actually.
We don't actually pay anything unless we use it.
So we don't pay for the
So there
interest or
isn't
anything?
an interest to,
Not unless
You wouldn't pay interest unless you
okay.
Right.
drew it
So
down.
it is a true line of credit.
It is, yeah,
It's just a line of credit.
correct,
Well, then that's.
It's not a,
It's even better.
so it's zero cost unless,
unless you use
Need
the
it.
money, yeah.
With that being said, I would encourage you to consider doing it next year because we won't have ESSER funds next year. And these last 2 years, we've had bonus bucks that have caused us not to need it.
Right,
So,
and some of the problem is when we get our money from the state or tax money, that's to help fill in with that too, so.
So it can be a nice buffer if
it's a
need
gap
be.
loan.
All right, any other questions? Not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Okay.
Opposed? Motion carries. Budget,
Motion to approve the 2021-22 budget as presented.
we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. This is the budget that was approved essentially at the annual meeting.
Pretty big.
Any questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
You can go.
School tax levy,
Move to approve the 2021-22 school tax levy of $3,298,946 as presented.
a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any questions, comments? Again, this is what was approved at the annual meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Okay.
Opposed? Motion carries. Field trip policy. I'll accept the motion to table this until the next meeting.
Move to table the field trip policy number 2340 as presented.
We have a motion to table. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is tabled until the next meeting.
Can I go back, a couple motions back, just a question?
Uh-oh.
Well, the line of credit, which, I get, like Mike said, it's a gap loan. What is the difference between, isn't that why we have the fund balance to cover that gap?
No, because fund
'Cause I
balance,
Yeah, go ahead.
fund balance isn't necessarily sitting in your banking account. In fact, it's not. Where this would be accessible money that you could utilize.
See, I always thought
The
that,
fund balance is
yeah, I get that.
in the
but-
books, but it
It's
doesn't
not
mean,
cash on hand.
yeah, you have to wait till the state gives us money and the tax comes in before you can actually get at it.
Yeah, I guess I always thought that's the reason why you wanted a bigger fund balance, so you didn't have to have that short term.
Kind of is, but it's not.
It's not so you can spend things.
Yeah,
Whatever, I guess I don't, I mean, I can go with that explanation.
That's like having using your checkbook. I guess the fund balance would be like the CD that you can't always get at right away when you need to write a check. And the line of credit, when you
But
need to
just-
write a check.
How much our fund balance is depends on how much interest that we pay. Cover that gap. There's something I'm missing here and I'm not quite. But could be for another meeting.
Might be something you wanna
That might be
email
silly.
Mike, yeah, explain to us.
We will be honest, anyone who's ever sat through a couple of these work sessions on the school budget,
It's mind numbing,
yes,
Yeah.
totally.
Yes.
and it's screwed up.
You get really excited and you think
And
you're
they will
learning it
spend
for about 5
even
minutes.
DPI will spend 2 or 3 days explaining it, and even they don't quite have it down pat, so. All right,
Move to approve all draft policies, non-discrimination and harassment in Neola Volume 30, Number 2.
this is the second reading. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We said this is the second reading of these policies, mostly updates and stuff like that. So, any questions, comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting dates. November, December. Christmas is coming, Thanksgiving is coming, Halloween is coming.
Thank you for that.
Board discussion, comments?
Sorry.
I'd just like to mention that I didn't see on the door or at the entrance a recommendation for masks. Again,
Okay,
if we're recommending masks, we really should be recommending them.
okay, I did address that once, but I will do that again.
And maybe wait, if students are writing it down or something, maybe it's something we need to make sure we're looking at regularly. To repost. I just, if we're recommending them, we really should be at least saying, hey, you're coming in here, please think about putting a mask on.
Okay, did any of you get a chance to watch any of the WASB board meeting broadcasts?
I did.
If you haven't, do so. They are really informative. I will send you the link for these.
Okay.
Basically, it's a 3-part, 3 hours, 1 part, 1 hour for each one. I'm basically planning the meeting, doing the meeting, summarizing the meeting, the whole bit. It's really quite good.
Okay.
Anything else?
Did we skip over the dates?
We just talked about Christmas and Thanksgiving and Halloween.
Yeah.
He said the dates there.
November 17th, December 15th.
Oh, okay. That's right, that.
3rd Wednesday of each month. Or thereabouts. Okay, Dustin, Jim will get you a computer and an email address with the school email address and all the things like that that you need. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
I'm sure I'm gonna have plenty.
Yeah, you got all of us here, and I will send you some links.
Okay.
There is a regional meeting coming up. That was basically, it's kind of not quite an introduction for new board members, but this is for all the regions, and this is online.
Okay.
That's coming up, I believe, next week. That, Again, we'll send you the link on that. If you're interested, let Denise know so she can register you. Give you a chance to,
Is that Wednesday?
is it next Wednesday?
I'm looking.
I'm not sure.
It is Wednesday at 7:00, virtual, right? All
Right, it's all
virtual.
virtual. WASB, Wisconsin Association of School Board President or CEO gives a discussion of where things are and legislative update and all that sort of stuff, so.
Okay.
We'll get that link to you, and like I said, if you want interested, let Denise know.
Yeah, I would say go ahead and sign me up.
It's-
I've got a lot to learn.
And these are good places to work.
Where's that at, in Square, or?
It's virtual.
It's virtual.
Virtual.
Oh, okay, regional meeting
The
next.
27th of October,
27th.
7:00.
All right, congratulations, welcome to the board.
Bedtime.
And
We need to leave these, right?
Yes,
The interview questions.
yes. Leave those behind, Denise, we'll collect them. I know you have a lot of, people telling you all the things that you have to do, but another person you'll have to stop in and see, maybe when you come in for your technology, or your computer and everything, is stop in and see Lana in the district office.
Okay.
Come in and see all of us. We'll-
Yep.
all right, so motion to adjourn.
I'm motion to adjourn.
We have a second, we have a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Motion carries, oh, hush.